So I competed in an underground event. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Red, what do you mean you competed in an underground event? What does that mean? And let me explain before we get into today's video. So a while back I was contacted by a returning player, Dread Phoenix, over on Discord, to see if I wanted to compete in a little event he was hosting between a small amount of players. It wasn't anything big per se, there was no prize money on the line, but it was just sort of a tournament to just for the hell of it. I mean, I don't really remember what the whole context behind it was, but regardless, it was a tournament, and seeing how I was coming off the Rat Cup, I figured, hey, let's go ahead and give it a shot. Why not? It's more content for you guys. So the event did turn out to be pretty private. A total of 5 players competed. I know that's not really tournament level, but still, I mean, we just kind of went in a round robin with a bracket at the end, placements based off of the round robin results, and you go from there. So what you're going to see pretty much is just the round robin in its entirety, facing everyone at least once, so that should be 4 matches plus brackets. I won't spoil the results of those brackets, you got to keep watching for that, but yeah, it was a good time, certainly was. And yeah, with that being said, I guess I'll talk to you guys more about it at the end, but I know what you're here for. I know what you want to get into. Oh, the stipulation, that's right, there was none. I don't know if I already mentioned that. I feel like I might have already, but yeah, there was no stipulation. Pretty much whatever you wanted to use. I didn't realize you could switch decks in the tournament, or throughout the tournament as you were progressing through. So yeah, I went through pretty much the majority of it with Ragnaroth, and if you guys want to watch the video on that, to get a full deck profile on what I used in this little event, you can of course check that in the link down below. But without further ado, folks, we do have some matches to get to. We do have some matches to go over, so let's go ahead and jump into it, folks. Our first matchup of the round robin, let's go ahead and get to that right now. And needless to say, my first matchup was already against a pretty heavy hitter. We went up against Death's Advocate, the Casting Conflicts Season 2 champion. And yeah, let's go ahead and see how I do here in the opening game. We're not off to a great start. We do have Ice Drake and Freezing Pillar, which I thought were going to be okay, so I kept it. And the Dark Bender as well, which could potentially be some fun mid-game beef. Reaper, though, starts out with an Elvish Thief up at the top there. That is going to be pretty much a sign that he's going to go into the Rat Hovel based on how he didn't move the Thief. I really have no clean way to respond to this except for the Ice Drake, which I do get to. We are going to throw that right at the front here. There's no really point in, I think, bringing it back at this point in the game. So anyway, throwing it right up, I figured we need to get some defense out here for this Elvish Thief here. And I think he's running. I don't know if he ran school. I didn't get the exact deck for what he was doing. But at this point, I was like, okay, probably some gold gain, a little bit of ramp, maybe some school draw thrown in here, maybe a bit of a rat focus. I wasn't sure. We did see the connection there, the Elvish Thief trading into the Ice Drake, so I thought that was a good sign. Our body block kind of worked. Although I'm not too fond of the second hovel coming out. That I'm not a big fan of. I don't really have a lot of removal in the hand right now to deal with a dual hovel situation. So for now, throwing out the Dark Bender and just seeing what's going to happen here. I mean, I just hope that there's no globals in that hand of his to start pumping these rats up to massive sizes. One rat goes ahead, chips away at the castle. The second is going to try and intercept the Dark Bender. Third hasn't moved yet, but will move down towards the bottom there, potentially setting up some more buildings, or at least maybe getting some armory placement set up for some later turns. We're not sure at this point here, but there is the Southport Captain, so additional ramp is coming out now. That will be a follow-up here, and I'm not too happy about that. My hand isn't super well equipped to deal with things that like ramp that he's going to start pushing out now. I go for the Dragonite here just to get some more bodies out on the board. Hindsight, I probably could have traded with the Dragonite into the Rat, and maybe preserved a bit more health on the Faithful Drake here. But I was trying to get something set up for Dark Bender, which ultimately didn't work. You saw the Mercenary Execution landing against the Dark Bender there, and that threw a big wrench in my plan. I was hoping that Dark Bender would be a nice control tool moving throughout the rest of the game here, but now being cut off of that. was a bit disappointing. And yeah, that is pretty much where all of that rammed gold went here, as he now passes after removing my Dragon Knight, which I did kind of end up giving him for free there, which is a bit unfortunate. I do have another one, though. We are going to try and throw this out, I believe, and then end up trading the Faithful with the Captain. Yep, we do that. I'm thinking to myself, if I can hold out till turn 9, I might be in a good spot, considering I have not only 2 Yenaroths, but a Mystic Journey on top of that. The Journey should help freeze over some things multiple times back to back here. But yeah, this is starting to not look so good now. Daggerstorm on my Darkbender here. He's got a swarm of rats going to approach me any minute now. There is a Blacksmith as well, so now some stronger rats for us to deal with. And yeah, certainly not looking too good here. I end up, I think, how do I do this? I spent a lot of time here debating on which rat I should connect with here, while also trying to get some optimal pillar plays. I wasn't too sure about how I would go about this. I figured let's pop the green drake, or not, well, let's pop the dragon search, see if we can pull maybe a cheap drake out of it to go inside with the freezing pillar. Unfortunately, green drake is the most expensive one we could pull, so that's not going to do us too well. I figured let's go ahead and drop the pillar and then call it a turn there. Just kind of freeze off the rats here. Even though Darkbender's dead next turn anyway, I want to start stalling a little bit here to try and protect my face here, so that way I'm not overwhelmed by the rats. Although he is going to start moving these bad boys in, it is going to be quite annoying on that end. Swordsman coming in now. Swordsman will, of course, move to threaten that Darkbender, or threaten face, actually, is more appropriate, considering that he can just simply, you know, walk in at this point. The Darkbender dies, and I have no face blockers. At this point, I do not have the Yenaroth. I am 1 gold off. Figured, alright, I have to get a green drake out here. We have to get some kind of board presence out to protect ourselves here. And honestly, here I make a pretty dumb misplay. I connect into the Frozen Rat, opening up the Swordsman. I really don't think it mattered anyway. I throw out the emo because I just, I didn't want to do that. I wanted him to focus on the Frozen Pillar rather than the Green Drake. Both would have died anyway, but still. And he connects to the Freezing Pillar anyway, so I guess my play did kind of unfold the way I wanted to, although, I mean, still, we got hit pretty hard there. We do have the Yenaroths coming up, though, so I'm not too bent out of shape here. Does throw in a Mordok for additional measures as well, just kind of reinforce his board presence, which is unfortunate. We don't have things like Dragon's Fire in the hand right now for us to kind of help control us a little bit here. So Yenaroth has to be the play for next turn, which we end up, I think, committing to, and I think we hit into the Swordsman, even though the Swordsman doesn't die, he does get a retaliation shot. I'm thinking, even if he, murders the Yenaroth here, we can at least lower the Swordsman down to where we can trade with Lumberjack next turn. And I think that would be a pretty efficient trade. But, yeah. End up doing some reinforced shenanigans on the Rat Hobble in the back here. Reinforced, nice little way, I will mention. I don't know if this is specifically his tech choice for reinforced, but preventing things like Lightning Blade from killing off your buildings by reinforcing them is pretty neat. Not a whole lot of people do that in Crusader. They opt for, other options. Some that progress their strategies, and some that, are just more widely used than Reinforce. But I know people do play Reinforce. I mean, it's a cheap cycle card. You can, buff up Castle and then draw a bit. But using it for buildings, I think, is also a thing that we don't see a lot. And I mean, here it worked pretty well, or would have worked pretty well against the Lightning Blade, which, I mean, now I'm not tempted to use it. I don't think I'm in a situation where I can safely Lightning Blade this turn anyway. But yeah, certainly something that was nice on him to play. Just seeing that play right there is a little bit of a interesting one. Ends up going for a second reinforce onto the castle this time, so buffing that up a little bit here. I guess he saw no point in buffing the Rat Hobble further to, like 7 health, because I think, or at least he thinks that maybe 1 should do the job. And then meanwhile, you see he's positioning all of his units around Chain, which is what you want to do against Vikings, so he knows his stuff pretty much. This is why he is the Casting Conflicts Season 2 champion. I do pop the Mystic Journey onto this Yenaroth here. Thankfully, he did not kill it, so we are going to go ahead and get a bit of trading done on the board here while we can. I'm popping into the Dragon Search just to see what I can pull from it. We're going to end up, I think, using the Green Drake here for some additional trading. I don't think I could have safely pushed this forward with how much was in the back end here, but I do anyway. Okay. I do end up pushing it. I don't remember why I did, but I think at this point I was thinking, all right, we're getting to sudden death here. I need some damage on face. Let's go ahead and try and do as much as we can. Second Mordock comes out. Thankfully, that Horseman connects to the Lumberjack here, pulling us a blue Fireball. I'm not too bent out of shape about that. And I can use this green Shadow Drake a little bit here to mess around with the Green Drake, or at least keep it alive for some additional turns here. But, yeah, certainly not looking good for me. And he is playing well around chain the best as he can, although this rat right here, he's going to have to forcibly accept any sort of chain damage which might come his way, which I think I do commit to. I think, yeah, especially with 2 lightning blades, I think I do end up committing to that L blade play, at least one play of L blade here, so that way not only do I get some big chain damage, but with the Shadow Drake buff I can keep the Green Drake alive. I can keep that going. But of course I want to connect in first here. I want to make the pretty chain lightning happen. Takes out his Blacksmith too, which is absolutely big. It turns off a lot of this swarm right now for being super game ending. I mean, it's still a lot of rats, but hey, at least they're not, you know, like 2 1s or 3 2s or something like that, with the way we've controlled the buffs so far. I believe for the following turn, yeah, we're going to end up seeing some rat trades here. So all these rats are going to go into the Green Drake, which I thought was a bit weird. But I guess he can't really get rid of the Shadow Drake on the other end, so he has to put all those rats into the Green Drake. Meanwhile, he will create another rat opportunity here, I believe. Yeah, we're going to hit 1 rat there, 1 in the back. Yeah, so creating some further chain for us with an L blade. I don't remember if I commit to it, though, here. I think it depends on what he threw out. But at this point, yeah, okay, so there is another Mordock. At this point, we are getting pretty slim. I was hoping for a Dragon's Fire here so I can just efficiently clean up the board. I end up pulling another Yenaroth, which was quite unfortunate to see. So I end up, I think, taking it just to, you know, get some board presence out on the field here. Again, we are running the clock here. We're about to move into sudden death, and I'm down in the life game. I'm down by, I think, 5 points, so I need to start sort of building up some damage, or at least get ahead of him, because he also has heals. Another Executioner lands on the Yenaroth. I'm not too excited about that. I really needed that Yenaroth to at least stick on the board at that moment, but it's not going to be the case here. He is going to bring out some books, more rats from the hovel, and I was hoping Dragon's Fire could maybe save me. I end up fearing the Mordock just to kind of see what I can pull here. Armory is not the card. I think I do end up committing to the Yenaroth again, because I really don't have any other plays here. I was thinking, okay, what else am I going to do aside from, you know, another Yenaroth? The buffs won't help me. The L blade I can't because everything's frozen. Blue Fire, maybe a hovel or the books, but I was hoping to save that for another Dragon's Fire. I'm not out of it yet, though. As you can see here, we are going to cause him to do a bit more thinking on his end here. I mean, most of his board's frozen again. Not something you want to see. Mordock set up for another L blade, which is, you know, gross. But yeah, how does he go about this? How does he do it? Yeah, okay, he does block with the rat, so Mordock is protected, although I could just bolt it, or again, hoping to draw the Dragon's Fire, which we never did here. Armory as well, which is fine. I mean, again, getting those buff rats, you know, further buffed, which I do have the blue Firebolt for, so I'm not, again, bent out of shape about that. Priest coming into play now. Priest is going to buff everything up, that additional point here, which is nice. It does put his Mordock out of range of something like a Yenaroth, which I found quite annoying here. I do draw the Temple of the Five Gods and the Rat King, so if I held the Mystic Journey, we would be in a sweet spot, but unfortunately we didn't. So now here we are. I think I end up using Rat King here, and then just using some chain opportunities. In hindsight, I'm not sure if killing off the back rat and then, you know, creating that Rat King with the 1 space forward would have been more impactful. But at this point, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm hurting. I'm not doing too well here. As you can see, I'm pretty much debating on whether or not I want to use the blue fire for more efficient trading, but I don't think I commit. I think I do commit to it and then play the armory I think that's what I have to do here. It's a long time for me to think about this, because at this point, you know, I'm beginning to panic just a little bit here. There's nothing that's not a whole lot of recovery I can get out of this game, so I'm just kind of going through the motions here. If anything can save me, let it show up now. I put the Rat King to block here, connecting with rats. Yep, kind of blocking up as well. Trying to maybe prevent an Arbiters, but I mean, at this point, man, we're not in a good spot here. At least I got rid of the Armory again, which is always nice. But yeah, more sudden death is going to tick down here. I don't remember how he goes about that. Oh yeah, Dwarven Scope, which I was not excited to see. I guess at that point, it pretty much confirmed me this might have been more of a green-yellow good stuff deck. Seeing the scope plus the Mordok, it's never great. Because yeah, now the Rat's going to end up doing some things here. Mordok getting the shot in on the Yenaroth, generating that undead unit for free. I think the Banshee moves into the Yenaroth, if I remember correctly, to generate a spell, correct? Oh no, okay, so it's going to be both Rats. Yeah, both Rats. I think the Banshee goes into... No, okay, Shadow Drake goes into that. Banshee, I think, goes into the Rat King because he fears a Mystic Journey. Yep, there it is. And then, of course, going to rush up a couple more of these ratty boys. So, yeah. Certainly, I mean, you couldn't already tell. You know, game one of the round robin, certainly we lost this one. Not a whole lot of room for recovery here. We don't have the Rat King, we don't have a Mystic Journey. We have just more buffs here. Dragon Knight is okay. I think I end up going for Dragon Knight Temple here, but at this point, I'm trying to figure out how can I block the Mordok from coming in. And I think I just, you know, I'm putting the pieces together and nothing is really working. I think I do have like a slight chance with the blacksmiths here, but even then, like it's just rough here. I think I end up going for some trades across the board here. We trade with a Banshee there. I think we pop out the Dragon Knight, right? And then throw the Blacksmith behind that. The second one, that is. We move the Drake up to kill off the Priest to prevent that from killing off the Dragon Knight. It's a whole big mess of things here, folks. But ultimately, man, I'm just looking at the scope Mordok. I'm like, I've got no answers. And that's just going to be that. So, unfortunately, we do lose game one of the round robin. Again, it just wasn't in our favor this time. We didn't draw things like Dragon's Fire to clean it up, nor Freezing Pillars to help stall. We did draw like one, but it wasn't really used optimally. And yeah, that's just how it goes. So, match number one, not successful against the Season 2 champion. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into game two, where hopefully maybe we can turn around our luck in this round robin. Alright, folks, and game number two sees us not take on Tweakin', unfortunately. I mean, you're seeing the Tweakin' OTK in the name, but unfortunately this is not Tweakin'. It's actually Dread Phoenix. This is the organizer of the event here, so we decided, well, we ended up taking him on in the next round here. I mean, not off to a bad start. We do have the Faithful Drakes to start off the game, which, I mean, you love to see. That should do us well here to kind of provide some early bodies, and even the Blacksmith for follow-up here. And you can see our opponent follows up with the Priest, which is never a good matchup to the Drake. The Drake is just a clean kill on it and then survives with the one here. I end up pushing the second Faithful Drake. I figured there's no reason to Blacksmith this now, whatever he throws out to deal with the Drake. Yeah, Lumberjack, okay, that's going to trade here. That's not really going to matter here. Does he have anything else? Maybe block here. Another Priest. Nope, reinforce. So, some very early cycle from our opponent. And at that point, I figured I pulled the Dragon Knight for turn. I'm like, why not just throw more bodies down on the board here? If I can maybe control the amount of units coming on his side of the field or coming in on his side of the field, we can do well here. Notice, by the way, I'm getting stuck with Rakanauts at the early portion. And something when you play Rakanauts is that you never want to see Rakanauts, especially two of them this early on in the game. So I already was like, okay, I need to really control this board here because these bad boys aren't coming out till much later. Thankfully, I have some globals in my hand, which can maybe help, but let's hope he can't remove these guys as easily here. So he throws up the Knight of Flowers, and I figured that's absolutely perfect. Get down an Armory, get down a Lumberjack. I just do a little bit of positioning with the Lumberjack, as you can see here. Setting us up away from Chain against the castle. But at this point, we've got 3-5 Drakes coming in, the Dragon Knight at 3-3, the Lumberjack as well. Things are looking good in this matchup here. We've controlled the board very well. He's got no resources to use at this point, and certainly that's not good being a Viking Crusader deck. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it might be War Party, but I wasn't too sure. We do see the Wraith come out, which I was like, okay, that seems fine here. We do have enough power to trade on the board with the Wraith, which I think we do end up committing to because, again, I just really want to control this board here throughout the matchup. And I do end up taking the Faithful Drake shot, following up with the Green Drake and the Lumberjack as well. Again, being more aggressive because I figure these colors don't have a whole lot they can do. Maybe they can reanimate, but I'm thinking what's, reanimate going to do against the Green Drake right now without maybe making like an equal trade at this point. So I'm feeling good, even with the dual racket in hand here. I'm not sure what he did. I think I remember what he did here, but I want to let him play it out here. Yeah, the second Wraith is going to come out for his side of the board now. That is going to push back our Green Drake, which is unfortunate. But again, we do have the Lumberjack here, so Lumberjack is going to do a good job in just trading. Which is right there against the Wraith here. We do pull the Rat King, which is nice here, but I'm more concerned about that Ice Drake and the Blacksmith for additional follow-up here. So now we can just keep pouring down the Drake bodies here to try and end the game here. A 6-5, an 8-5, and a 4-5. All ready to, jump on face with no board presence to back yourself up. It's a rough position to be in, and I think our friend here knew that. I think Dread Phoenix was quite aware that he wasn't really getting out at this point. I forgot what he did, though. I think, what did he do? I'm going to let him play it out, though. Because, at this point, match pretty much over if he doesn't have anything like a Fear or another Wraith. Yeah, Knight of Flowers comes in. That is not going to be an effective way to clear anything. And, at this point, I just move in to finish off the game here. We do have the 4 from the Faithful, the 8 from the Green, and the 6 from the Ice Drake. More than enough to clean up our game number 2 here to bring us back into the winner's circle. So currently 1-1 in the round robin. We're not out of it yet, but we still have some additional matches to get to before we move into potentially the brackets. So let's go ahead, folks, get into match number 3 and see how that one went. Alright, folks, and match number 3 sees us taking on Jump. Always a pleasure to face Jump in games like this. So, of course, jumping into the match itself, we do have quite a opening hand here. I decided to swipe away the Armory. I figured the 2 Fears are going to be enough to kind of stall and cycle to see if we can get anything cheaper in our hand to start off the game. Love seeing the Rat King Mystic Journey combo though to start off the game for sure. He opens up with an Elvish Thief, which I figured, okay, let's go ahead, fear that back. No need to worry about that. We can, of course, just keep it away, and we do pull a Blue Fire, so I'm happy to see that as well. I think he does go for a Maddie here. Yep, there is the Maddie and the Wizard pull. Not something that's too exciting, but we are going to end up Blue Fire bolting this right away, because, I don't want to get this to get any sort of, I don't want to get bigger or out of hand. So we're going to get rid of the Wizard with the Blue Fire Bolt for the follow-up here. I will let the Elvish Thief come in here for another shot. But I'm kind of regretting that choice now, seeing the Armory on board. Although Dragon's Fire hadn't shown up for the past 2 games, but makes an appearance now. Fantastic stuff. You love to see it. I think I end up going with the Rat King here just to get some buys out on the board here. Although, additionally, I'm debating on whether or not to use the Fear. I don't want to give Jump that much ramp at this point in the game because I figured his deck could capitalize pretty heavily off of that. And you see here I'm kind of debating, do I bring out the Dragon Knight? Do I just give him, 2 additional gold? Put him at, what would that be? 8, I think? Yeah, would be putting him at 8 gold, but I figured maybe not the best idea. Let's go ahead and get out of Rat King now, at least for the time being. I do kind of regret the placement of the Rat King, though, itself. I kind of just throw it out there. I kind of forgot that I had the Mystic Journey in my hand as I was making the Rat King play. So I was hoping, like, okay, maybe he'll hopefully forget that I have, Viking. Maybe he'll just overlook the Mystic Journey. Maybe he'll just focus on the upkeep portion hurting me and leave my Rat King alone here. Another Maddie comes out, generating the Wind Mage, so that's going to, of course, push everything back, which I'm not sure he was super happy about because he wanted to trade with that top rat, but no matter. He is going to push everything back. I think establish the Wind Mage up at the top there. And then following up here, he will put the Put the Maddies down, creating another Elvish Thief, which, I mean, I couldn't get rid of one. I'm not going to be able to get rid of two. Upkeep prevents me from coining into a Dragon's Fire at this point, so I was a little bummed out about that. We had immense value here for it. But, yeah, we're not going to be able to do that this turn here. I think I end up committing, though, to the Mystic Journey at this point, because I figured, why not throw a lot more bodies at him, kind of overwhelm him a bit with the potential for rats here. And maybe next turn, if we can keep a lot of rats alive, maybe we can end up buffing them to 2/2s to make more efficient trading happen throughout the board. And we're going to try and chip away as much as we can here. I'm going to move in some rats. You notice how I'm not trading with any of them either. I'm just kind of putting them around the board here. He is in green-purple, so doesn't have the chain or the mass burn to actually remove my rats, which I'm kind of, thankful for here in this matchup. But yeah, throwing a lot of bodies at him, I'm thinking, what is he really going to be able to do to get rid of this without having to maybe, double back, clean up some things, make some awkward positionings, maybe. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. Maddie going to go ahead, connect into that topmost rat. And I think he did end up seeing a little bit of blood in the water here. He actually goes for my rat closest to castle and then shaking another 4-chip to the face. So not actually focusing on my rats. I was a little confused about that. I was wondering, well, what, how is he going to deal with all the rats then if he's putting most of his units to attack my face? Yeah, I wasn't sure what the plan was until he really takes his time to think about these plays here. Yeah, there it is, the Rat King. He has a Rat giving his own here, and that's going to come out and make some more efficient trading happening throughout the board here. What I didn't expect, though, is one of the plays that you'll see here momentarily. A lot of trading happening on the board, as you'd expect here. The bottom rat doesn't actually connect into the Rat King. And I think he was thinking, okay, maybe the upkeep would hurt him or hurt me. So maybe he didn't really realize what I was doing here. But I kind of see the opportunity here. I move into a coin and I bring out the Temple of the Five Gods here. And this is going to create some massive, massive chain value for me throughout the board here. And I think even so much so that Jump recognized it, throws out the respect here. Because, I mean, even he didn't, I think, see the potential for me to bring out the temple here. So I end up cleaning off a lot of the board here, giving him a lot of ramp, but more importantly, not a whole lot of cards to use him. So we'll see if maybe that was the right call on my end here. He does start to commit some rats to my face, which is a bit unfortunate, but also now mindful of the chain, as you can see, kind of keeping things spaced out as you should be against these kind of colors. Excuse me. And yeah, for the follow-up, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a good spot here. I'll Dragon's Fire next turn here until he brings out the big boy. Swordsman comes back out here for another rematch, and we all know what happened when DA played the Swordsman in game number 1. It did not go well, and certainly is not going to go well here in this follow-up game. I'm debating, all right, how am I going to do this here? I start to question myself on whether or not to get the Dragon Knight out, create some weird block trading scenario here. I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, what am I doing here? How am I going to deal with this? Because I mean, even if I Dragon's Fire, right, I'm nervous that he has some way to remove my body blocker and then get Swordsman to face here. Why else wouldn't you throw out the Swordsman? But I take a risk. I Dragon's Fire the board here, clear that up, create the Lumberjack as a body block, and hope he has no clear way to get to face at that point. Which, in a way, I think as you'll see in a moment here, it did kind of pay off. As I just want to, let him do his turn. Jump is a thinker, by the way. Like that's his whole shtick. Likes to think for his turn, he makes the most impactful plays that he possibly can. He gets a Koru out for turn. Not super impactful is the Koru quite yet. But at that point, I kind of see, okay, maybe a little bit of weakness there in the hand, so I end up going for the Lumberjack draw. I pull a Freezing Pillar, which I probably should have committed to, or I probably should have held off on, getting out the Dragon Knight until I saw the Pillar. But you know what? What the hell? It happened here, so let's go ahead and see what happens. Thankfully, the Koru is not in position to connect with the Dragon Knight, so that way the Swordsman can't hit until the Dwarven Scope comes out and creates some large issues for me, as this is going to, connect for 6. and then Swordsman comes in and connects for another 5. I think, okay, maybe I can use the Faithful Drake here to at least take out the armory. Hopefully, maybe I can get that trade going here, but realize he still has 5 gold. Brings out a Dancing Swords, which does get rid of that Faithful Drake. Quite unfortunate. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. Swordsman is landing on face. He has swords here, but then I realize I've got a Yenaroth. So we move into turn 9, and I will play the Yenaroth. No hesitation here, I believe. I gotta get it out, freeze off the board here, and that will reveal the Koru as well, which is a nice added feature. And since Jump does not have any sort of fortifies in hand or in deck, you know, the freeze should freeze the Koru and keep it there. So I'm pretty excited about that. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can create some trades here, get some things going here. I have a Mystic Journey as well in the hand, so we can refreeze the board. Things looking pretty nice. I will certainly say that here in this game. Although we are low on life, and I do start to try and panic a little bit, just because, again, we're running out of time, just like game 1, and I need to put some damage on face to equalize this out a little bit here. So he throws out another Swords, follows up with another Koru as well. I'm thinking, okay, not exactly great here, but again, we have that Mystic Journey, so we are going to pop it and discover the additional spot of Koru, which turns out to be right in a great spot for a Freezing Pillar. So we end up, I believe, going for the Yenaroth trade against the Swords, right? And then we follow up with the Dragon Knight? I think I go Dragon Knight here, or at least I kind of throw around the idea a bit. Maybe in hindsight, it would have been better to do the Faithful Pillar. But with the Dragon Knight, we can remove the other Dancing Sword, so it's not a problem, and then freeze off the remaining Korus, which I think, okay, this is going to be great. We have a way to kind of control this board a little bit now. We can see the Korus. Mordok comes out and makes me sad, but, I mean, you know, it is what it is here. So the Mordok does connect to the Faithful Drake here. It does mean the Banshee gets summoned. I believe Banshee, yep, goes for the pillar, so freeing the Korus from their icy captivity. And, yeah. Not a great spot for me, especially considering the way that this board is positioned. So I go about this by connecting into the Mordok. The Mordok will, of course, generate a unit, which I end up having to use the Yenaroth for. At least that's my idea. And yeah, the 4/9 Wraith, I was like, God damn it. I wanted something smaller so that way I could trade the Faithful Drakes into it. But here we are. It's a big Wraith here. And I believe... How do I handle this? I think I get Blacksmith out. Right, okay. And then... Yeah, I think I end up getting... Do I do math here? Yeah, I think I do math here. So I realize, okay, one Drake is enough to take out at least one Koru. We can use the Yenaroth. We can double back and remove the Wraith, remove the Koru. Scope Koru, mind you. He still has a Koru left, but I'm thinking, okay, at least this is better. Hopefully. Didn't need a speed buff coming out. You know, speed scope or speed phantom strike could end the game here. So I'm, you know, sweating a little bit. I'm thinking, okay, not good. We got to find a way to kind of get to his face and equalize this thing fast before things start getting bad here. He's up on cards. We're moving into sudden death very soon. I'm only going to get one card in the next turn as opposed to his 2 in the following. Not good all around. He brings out the Badger, which I'm thinking, okay, that's manageable, but still kind of gross. We do pull yet another Blacks, which I'm never happy to see, considering that now I have to kind of be more aggressive here. And I think I end up just pushing the Drake. I get the Blacksmith out here to create some more buffs on the board. Just, again, I got to start putting things close to his face here. We throw the Yenaroth up at the middle here. We throw the Drake up. We even throw one of the Blacksmiths up because, again, it's a body that can move in and maybe deal some damage when we need to. And that's just very important right now as we are barely holding on to sudden death. And, yeah. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get to the face here? I lose my Yenaroth, the 10-6 big boy equalizer. I mean, I do have Faithful and Blacksmith, but I figured, okay, he has a way to kill those, so how are we going to exactly retaliate here? But when you look at what happens, he does put Swiftness on the Badger, so again, more cycle. I'm thinking, okay, that's fine. We can, maybe he's trying to draw answers, drawing that, like, maybe a multi-strike. That would have been a huge game ender right there, but, yeah, what he goes for is something just a little bit different here, and you'll see in a moment from what we were predicting that he would. Again, Jump is a thinker, so you got to let him think about the plays here. Although, I mean, that could be on me. I could have actually sped this up, but, you know. Maybe it's because he's moving his stealth unit and I can't really see it. That's what's going on here. He throws out the Cannoneer and the Rat Hobble for follow-up here. As you can see, doesn't really have a good way of removing the rest of this, which kind of tells me that, okay, he's setting up an OTK. So I'm drawing, you know, fear. I'm drawing into whatever I can here. There's the L-Blade top deck, and that is going to be just enough to bring us out of the game here, especially with the Badger not being in the blacksmith spot. Without the respect, toss out the Lightning Blade here. Drake connects for game number 2 as a win. Quite a close one here between me and Jump, which is fantastic, but man, I was certainly scared that I was going to see some sort of, like, you know, big Badger surprise kill at that very last moment here. Maybe he was setting it up, I'm not sure. But, yeah, certainly scary for a game number 3. But it does give us the win nonetheless here. And we move into our final game of the round robin at a 2-1 record, which is fantastic. We do have one more challenger to get to, though, before the round robin ends. So let's go ahead and get to that right now. And our last matchup of the round robin sees us taking on Terrortale, who, honestly, if you guys haven't faced off against Terrortale, he's quite the competitor, and I think honestly has a lot of potential moving forward in the future of this game. Maybe even the sequel, maybe, not sure. But anyways, we're gonna jump into this matchup right now, and of course, we're gonna open up with a okay hand. We've got the blue Firebolt, we've got the Rat King. Yenneroth is not the card I wanted to see, though, for the follow-up here. And, yeah, Freezing Pillar is okay, but still not really a unit which we can use here. And we're going to end up passing turn 2 here. Thankfully, Terra did pass turn 1, so we're going to end up seeing the coin out of him. It does bring out a Flying Books here. And the colors kind of make me assume that this is potentially War Party. Again, just based on the way he's playing it here. We got the books. We've got a lot of cards in the opener here. Feels like it, but we can't be sure. Now, we're going to get the Rat King out now to kind of just control the board a little bit here. I do end up placing one rat back just in fear of, like, Frozen Pillar. I'm not sure why I did that, but, you know, playing around the freeze, I guess. And, yeah, Books is left to his own devices. Actually, we're going to see a pass turn 3, which I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be nice here. We can maybe get the Rat King going for some chip here, trade with the Books. Things are going to be good. And we do have that Dragon Surge off the top, which we do use to get the Shadow Drake for 2 turns. 2 turns later. Because next turn, if the Rat King is alive, we would have the 3 gold, so we could either use Blue Fire or Freezing Pillar. One of the 2 options here. And seeing the Wizard out of Terrortale turn 4, I'm thinking, you know what? Perfect opportunity here. We got 3 gold. We've got a special little red card in our hand. Let's go ahead and connect to that. So we are going to Blue Firebolt. I was actually debating, like, doing the Rat King and freezing it until I realized, like, oh, duh, I have Blue Firebolt. What am I doing? So, yeah, I Blue Firebolt the Wizard. And, of course, take a bit more chips with the rats and then going to pass it back to him. Not much more I could do after that here with 0 gold. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing pretty well here. He hasn't really thrown a lot at me. So, again, I've got the firm idea that we are seeing a War Party deck of some kind here. And I think at that point, I do commit to the Green Drake, I believe, here. I think I commit to something. Either the Shadow Drake or the Green Drake. I don't remember which one I do here. But I do take another chip with the rat. Just debating on whether I should move it or not. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's fine. Actually, no, I do move it. I put it in the back, obviously. Back's a nice place. Misplay the Green Drake, though. As you can see there, I didn't mean to put it in that back square. I meant to put it in the usual spawn spot. So at that point, I'm like, oh, geez, that maybe could have just given him enough breathing room to kind of bounce back here. So I'm not super happy about that. I do end up having to push, I believe, the Shadow Drake for the following turn. I think that's what we do here. Yep, okay, so the Shadow Drake comes out. I figured let's go ahead and place it next to the Green Drake here, so that way whatever he lunges at me, maybe can't reach it. But he won't be able to really find it either here. So he's thinking maybe, okay, it might be in the back, but it's really off to the side here, which I'm hoping doesn't come back to bite us. But yeah. We do see the Rat King, which I have the fear of a Mystic Journey for, although it is end up going to be just a Lich setup for some freeze. I'm like, okay, that's not exactly good, but okay, we'll deal with it here. As Salahar Rider as well for even more board presence. And yeah, things are looking a bit weird here for sure. I do draw the Rakanoth, which I'm quite happy to see. I'm thinking, all right, let's go ahead and do a little bit more cleanup. I get the Rat King out. I get the Armory out to give my guys a bit more of a buff here. I'm going to do some trading around the board here just to eliminate the fear of a potential Mystic Journey. And I bait my Rat King out for his Salahar Rider, thinking that I might have a Mystic of my own. And I end up doing a couple of rat trades down here as well. Even though it does create a bit of a chain lightning, I think it's more important to get rid of that rat so it doesn't deal more than just one bit of chain. Could deal 2 to 1 specific unit here to better clean up. So we are going to let, one chain happen. Ryder took the bait, ends up going with the Rat King. Connection to the Green Drake, which I'm not too happy about because that just means it's a little bit weaker now for Terra to do some more trading with here. And of course that's what we're going to see a little bit as the books goes in. The rat, I believe, goes in. No, I think the rat actually moves back. The Lich is actually looking like it's going to end up making the trade itself, which I found interesting here because it doesn't actually kill. Well, it kills off the Green Drake with the help of the debuff stuff. And then he follows up with a Craxus, which I'm like, okay, that's not really good to see here, but I think I do have the card for that here, and it is going to be the Yenaroth, which I believe I do commit to, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, I commit to the Yenaroth. I'm thinking, like, is there the better way I can maybe do this with Dragon Knights to maybe give myself some multiple Rakab launching port options? But I'm like, nah, it's fine. Let's just go for the Yenaroth here. Let's go ahead, freeze it off here. We'll trade with the Craxus next turn, then we'll end up popping the Rakanoth here. As long as he doesn't throw out that one specific card out of his deck, it's turn 9. Does he have it? I'm wondering, is it going to be that time of the day where I end up seeing... I mean, Terry, you got to play the card here, buddy. Yep, there it is. The additional Yenaroth on his side. So I'm not happy about that. Kind of freezes off my own Yenaroth in place for me to actually... I can't really do much with it. And, yeah, certainly not happy about that. Now, in hindsight here, I could have probably taken a bit of a better play than I did. Considering that I kind of forgot that his cracks would remain frozen, I end up going for a much stupider freezing pillar that I think I should have by placing it right there in the middle. I probably should have put it maybe like, up top, or maybe did something that just where the Faithful Drake is right now. Maybe I should have put it there. So that way I would have maybe frozen off just the Yenaroth, and maybe the cracks would still have stuff. But either way, I think I do this a little bit wrong here, and you'll see why, as of course Salahar Rider coming in, Mordok being opened up to that, so now you get the free shot off the pillar. And of course does draw another Wraith, which it's a lot of those today. And of course he does do that as well. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and be a pain in the butt. And, I mean, at this point here, again, I'm making a bit more of a misplay here than I think I should. I connect with the Rat King, forgetting to establish the chain beforehand, and so now I've got this big mess of an issue. But I need the Wraith to survive so I can Yenaroth trade here, and I think I probably should have gone for the Rakanoth here, but at my mind, I was like, I'd have to keep trading into stuff. I wouldn't be able to get rid of everything. And so I kind of just panicked a bit here, and I just kind of went for, like, Temple Dragon Knight, which probably wasn't the play here. And even more so, I think I commit to the wrong plays here. I think I end up going, Dragon Knight into the Yenaroth here. I'm like, okay, that's not good here. I ended up putting the Faithful Drake into the top Yenaroth. I'm like, that. I realize that I'm now one off for Mordok to kill. I'm messing up here. At this point, I just realized, like, okay, this is not going to be the game here. War Party's going to bounce back. He's going to make a big sort of comeback here. Mordok has a shot on Castle. He's got Temple up. It doesn't feel like I can do a whole lot more here in this game than just sort of lose. So, as you can see, it's turn 10. He is going to debate quite a while for this, I believe, here, but it is going to come up fairly shortly. He ends up moving in for a game here. Mordok going to connect to the Temple. Horseman connecting to the Faith for another 3. The Horseman moving into the back here. That is going to do another bit of damage with Kunai. Mind you, I think we had that from Banshee a while back. So Kunai coming in. Arbiter coming in. That's going to deal an additional 5 plus Chain to remove the Yenaroth. And wouldn't you know it, that's the attack power of Craxus. for the lethal damage. Yeah, not exactly my brightest work here in this game. I think I had a bit of choice paralysis moving into the later ends, and even then, I definitely think I might have misplayed that freezing pillar. Should have put it where the Faithful Drake was, so that way I would have frozen off the Yenaroth, and so I would have had a bit more freedom in what I could do. Certainly a rough game, but you know what? It happens. It is what it is. But regardless, we do end up at a 2-2 record, which is enough to end us up in the bracket. So I believe we weren't in the first place seed or the second. I think we were either the third or the fourth seed. I don't remember. Everyone had like 2-2 records by the end of it, except Dread, who unfortunately had to, at that point, drop because of the record. He wouldn't have made the bracket. So Dread was out, but all the remaining competitors were still in and live. So we ended up going to a best-of-3 format now against some of the opponents from the last few games. And the first one up is going to be Jump. So let's go ahead and rematch best-of-3 with Jump right now. Alright folks, and the first round of the bracket is now underway as we got paired up with a Jump, as I mentioned a little while ago. And yeah, gonna jump right into it here. Again, sticking with the same deck, but at this point you can tell that we were allowed to switch decks as Jump is on a completely new build for our first round of the semifinals, I guess? Yeah, semifinals. Because, you know, whenever this would go on to the other bracket, which is finals. But anyway, yeah, Lumberjack trade gonna start off nice and simple here. We'll get some draws going, which is good. We kind of need it, and the freezing pillar is definitely a nice pickup for later on the line if we need it. But yeah, he'll start off with the Elvish Thief, much like how he did the last game or the last encounter we had. And wasn't too happy to see that, so I just decided, hey, we're going to go into a Drake here. A bit risky because we could face a potential coin into an armory or some kind of buff here, which unfortunately there is the coin, there is the armory, we do run into it. And that's a pretty rough trade to open us up here. I do have the Fire Drake though, so I think I go into that. Or no, I Blue Fireball at the armory as a response to this play here. Because realistically, he's surviving on 1 health. If you take away the 1 health from the armory, the elf goes down to, boom, right there. And yeah, off to a pretty good start, I would say, for this matchup here, where we didn't really take too much damage, but he definitely has a bit of ramp going on here in this game. Not going to really use it though, only going with the White Knight for this turn. I'm a little nervous to see that because my deck isn't super great at removing lifesteal before it gets buffed, and when it gets buffed, it's a whole different story. So, yeah, not excited to see the White Knight hit the board here. All we can do is really block with the Fire Drake and hope for the best here. I don't remember what he does here, though. I think, I don't remember if he goes into a buff or not here, but it would be ideal for him to start buffing. Yeah, there's a Blacksmith. So he does get some buffs going on. He is going to do a little bit of Fire Drake interaction there. Not really losing anything from it, so, you know, why not weaken the Drake? But here I believe I go into the Freezing Pillar, right? Yeah, put it right in front of the castle. Freeze off the White Knight without any risk of him getting to it soon. And then we'll throw out the Ice Drake as well here to kind of continue the interaction. Maybe I'm thinking to myself we can potentially do a little bit of trading here, or at least keep that in place for a Yenaroth maybe in the future. But he does hit the Dragon's Fire pretty early. He does remove both of my Drakes, which I thought was a bit rushed, but it is what it is here. I was hoping to get a Green Drake off the Dragon Surge. Instead we pull out another Fire Drake. That's fine. I mean, it's the same stat line as the White Knight, so I'm not too bent out of shape about that. But again, I would like to get this White Knight off the field as soon as possible here, so I'm not having to put more investments down to protect the pillar here. He does follow with a Southport Cannoneer. Not in the ideal position to get rid of the Freezing Pillar in the following turn, but with the Fire Drake where it is, you know, why I put it there. And thankfully we hit another Dragon Surge. We do find the Green Drake off of that, which I believe we do end up using to trade into the White Knight. Positioning is a bit rough on that one. I probably could have flown over the White Knight to bop him for 7, but we're approaching turn 8. I didn't know what else was coming out of his deck. I couldn't really figure out what a big plan other than lifesteal, so yeah, I probably could have been a bit more aggressive here, but decided not to, just to kind of see what else his deck had in store, and making him think that maybe I have an Aeroth on in the hand by placing some of the Drakes up. Realistically, I want the Rakanoth set up. I want to protect my boys for a potential big Rakanoth, but I don't have one right now. I'm kind of making him think that. Playing a bit of mind games here, which, of course, we're seeing some moderate results out of here. The Cannoneer gets pushed back. We end up seeing a Mordok yet again make his appearance on the board. Dragon's Fire I thought was pretty nice, although not a whole lot we can do with it now. Instead, we'll set up the Dragon Knight here, go for the Armory in the back, and this is just going to kind of give more power to my boys across the board here. I'm hoping that there is no sort of hard removal for the Green Drake at this point in the game, because the 8-9 I really want to at least trade with the Mordok. I want to avoid him getting a free shot on the pillar to generate a unit and give me more problems to deal with. And then it looks like we're not going to see that as the Armory comes out for turn here. It does make the Mordok a little stronger, yes, but nothing that our Green Drake still can't handle. We do see a Maddie there generating a Wizard. That's not the worst, but, it's a 5-5 range. It's going to be a pain in the ass, I know that much. And we do see the Banshee come in for some additional cleanup here. Jump does pull the Shadow Slip as well, which could be useful in bringing back the Maddie. At least that's what I believed. So I kind of want to get a bit more aggressive at this point in the matchup here. I do have the Yenaroth still in hand, which I think we do go for in the next turn, just because there is a large amount of range units on that side, which we can really push into. And picking up the Rakanoth I thought was also pretty big here. Unfortunately, we don't go for the Racket yet, because we really don't have back row removal with the Rakanoth. We can't move our Drakes into position for a clean way to remove the back row. I probably could have gone Rakanoth here, though, just to eliminate like the Cannoneer maybe. I still wasn't sure if the Rakanoth range would exactly hit the Cannoneer. So I do kind of, I think, hold off at this point on doing that. I commit to the Yenaroth instead, just to get some freeze on the board here. I will note, though, one mistake I probably did was, leaving the Drakes back here. I probably could have been more aggressive with at least the 4-7, pushing it in, so that way, if the Yenaroth goes down, we still have a target for the Rakanoth. I just, a little bit of a misplay there on my part, but we'll continue to move on here and hope that doesn't come back to bite us as we continue on inside of the matchup. At this point, I'm feeling good. We're getting a Yenaroth pushed down. Not a whole lot they can do against the Yenaroth until I see the Dread Pirate. Dread Pirate's certainly an interesting choice there, because it can get him a bit of extra gold to work with, which he is going to take off of the Dragon Knight, which we did freeze a little too close to face there. So that is certainly going to be a bit of a problem for us. Now he's going to have some additional gold here to pull out something. We'll see what that is here. I'll bring out another Maddie. The Maddie will yield a Sea Witch, where I'm thinking, okay, that's not too bad. We can work around that. And, yeah, he does bring that up. Throws a Maddie right in front of the face there. And I believe he has some additional follow-up here. Yeah, the Southport Captain, which is a great way to sort of block me off from getting ideal rack positioning with the Yenaroth here. And it kind of forced me into an awkward position. So I think at this point I debate whether or not to commit to the Rakanoth or maybe the Dragon's Fire. I'm a bit hesitant on doing the Rakanoth because I'm not getting a whole lot out of it. Popping an explosion here, I'm thinking, okay, maybe we'll clip like what? We'll clip the Southport, we'll clip the Dread Pirate, maybe one and the Maddie. Maybe we can have a choice between the Wizard or the Cannoneer. But I didn't like the Sea Witch in the back there, just sitting and, rearing itself to actually connect with that Fire Drake that I left up at the top there. So I kind of just threw the idea back and forth, like, what did I want to commit to? The Rakanoth, or just burning them and then maybe killing off Wizard or Cannoneer, and then doing, like, Lumberjack stuff. So I think what I ultimately do here is I do commit to the Dragon's Fire, just because I'm thinking, okay, I think I can get better Rakanoth positioning later in the game here. I'm not in a real rush to do so right now. I'm not fiending for damage on his face. We haven't lost a whole point of health on each other's castles the entire game. So I was kind of letting him go ahead and maybe get some more gold off the Robins. I know it's a bit risky here, giving him, 17 plus an additional 5 here, 22 gold to work with moving into the next turn here with quite a bit of resources in hand. But, we end up going for what I think may have been, maybe in hindsight, not the best play, going for the Wizard. Maybe we should have killed off the Cannoneer. But regardless, I think it just was a risk we had to take here, and we do end up losing the Yenaroth, unfortunately. the Dread Pirate, and I believe the Cannoneer were enough to deal with it. And I believe he can miss the Robins just 'cause I think he's doing some math in his head right now to figure out how much gold he would need. So we're going to see him pop into, again, Jump likes to take his time with his turns. And that's okay. That's okay, Jump. You know, you do you. But yeah, I believe Robin does go into the Enneroth here, and he is going to play out the rest of the turn, which I think is pretty impactful at this point in the game. I may be mistaken, but again, I have to kind of see the cards and remember what I'm actually dealing with here to really remember. Yeah, okay. And then the timer kicks in. Yep. And then he throws out the Archon Lord of Chaos. And here, you know, we're going to get a little bit of a game break. That's fine. It is what it is here. So Fat Bart up at the top corner there. The Archon moves forward. And that really kind of opens up here. And I will mention, I actually will pause it here. Usually when Archon hits the board, it's very interesting for Racket decks because Rakanoth becomes a more deadly tool in a way. You may not get the ideal target you want with something like the Fire Drake or the Faithful Drake, which I'm kind of pushing into position now to maybe get a better Rakanoth off. But what I'm really hoping for actually is to maybe snipe off something like the Blacksmith, the Armory, or the Fat Bard up at the corner there. Because then it not only destroys his back row, but of course it then puts Rakanoth right in front of his face and pops a bit more of his back row thanks to the explosion. It's a great time when you land a Rakanoth by sacrificing an opposing unit. And so here's where we're going to see the Rakanoth come into play here. Do hit the Fat Bar, which was not my ideal target. I want to hit the Blacksmith to be in the middle, so that way I could deal damage to pretty much the entirety of the back row. But I'm thinking, okay, it's not the worst. We get the Rakanoth going here. We can assert some damage early on here. We do the 5 to face there, but we can't do anything else, unfortunately. And we end up fixing our game just so it's nicer to look at for you guys. We do get the Rakanoth visual, of course. Our big scaly boy. And he does take a Cannoneer shot to the face, and then following up with another Robins here. And at this point, I'm thinking Jump's deck weakness is starting to come out a little bit here. He has a lot of gold, but running out of resources to use. And we'll see that kind of more apparent here as the Arcanons come out, make that 2. And then connect to the Fire Drake. And yeah, at this point, I'm thinking this is not very good here. I do have the Blacksmith and the L-Blade, which I'm thinking if I can land the L-Blade on Faithful Drake, I can pretty much clean up the game. Like, that's just going to be it, I think. So I end up trying to go for it here. Unfortunately, the L-Blade lands on the Lord of Chaos, the one that's right in front. So I'm not too happy about that, but I will sink in the 4 regardless because I do want to put Jump on a pretty short timer. Putting him into the single digits is not something that I think his deck likes to be in because obviously there's no heal recovery in it. And so we're looking pretty good here. Of course, Cannoneer connects, takes out the Drake here. Arcanon will connect to the Freezing Pillar, get a bit of lifesteal off of that, and then he'll follow up with the Mordok. As well as leaving the Arcanon General, not the Arcanon General, the Arcanon Lord of Chaos, I'll move that up, and a Dark Bender to follow up here. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, it's pretty much over here until I see that Yenneroth draw. I'm very happy to see that because not only do I just buy myself a turn here, but I set myself up nicely for lethal. As you can see, that other card drawn was the Temple of 5 Gods, which happened to be in a great spot for Chain to happen with Mordok and Darkbender connected to the castle there with only 1 point of damage being able to freely use before just based on how the turns swing and whatnot. So after I see that temple, I throw down the said temple, connect to the Mordok, and of course end the game thanks to sudden death and a little help from Chain. So that does secure our game number 1 of this best of 3. Remember, the semifinals were a best of 3. So let's go ahead and jump into game number 2 and see if we can clinch it out in 2 games. Alright folks, and moving into that game number 2 with Jump now, we actually finally decided to switch up our decks here, because again, at this point I found out that we can switch. So we ended up going with the Yellow Zoo deck, the deck that I think has been pretty strong, at least for me, when I've been running it over the past few rank scenes. I think it's had some ups and downs. I do this hand motion like I know what that means for this deck. But yeah, we're going to end up moving our Lumberjack in to start off a game number 1 here, because who doesn't love the Lumberjack push? And we'll meet a Priest, unfortunately, there. I'm hoping for a Blacksmith pickup. We don't get it. Although we do get the book, which is quite interesting here. I end up coining into the book because I figured why not establish some more draw for this deck early. And again, keep the Lumberjack to block face here. No reason to take 3 damage when we can just block against whatever Jump is doing with the Lumberjack here. So I believe Priest ends up moving into into face. No, not into face. Lumberjack's going to stay put there, and I do pick up a Manticore for turn, which I think is quite interesting here. I end up going for the Manticore play to block off the Priest here, because I know, regardless of what Jump does with this Priest here, Manticore's going to take the damage, and I'm going to be able to kill off this Priest as long as he doesn't get the Lumberjack somehow, which I think he would need like a Fear to do so or something like that, which I don't think he plays at this point. I don't think he has it in hand. But regardless, Manticore, great pull. Not a lot of people can really deal with the Manticore, I think, too effectively here. Oh, and this is fantastic here. So, I end up taking, I believe, a bit of a more risky play here with the Centaur. I figure that his deck isn't really picking up a whole lot of steam at this point, so I kind of seek in on that and connect to the Centaur here, taking with the Manticore taking the damage, and I move in with the Centaur, cleaning up the healthier of the two Priests, and start to push in for some damage here. I figured if he's only throwing out things like Priest to stop me, we should probably get in while we can now. Something like a Dragon's Fire and Flamestorm can easily clean this up for sure, but I mean, I figured why not just push in the damage now, get this going, and I think that was certainly the right call here, because we go into turn 5. He's got to think about this for sure, because not again, without something like a Dragon's Fire or a Flamestorm, more likely Flamestorm because we are on turn 5 after all, he has to really commit some resource here to get rid of this. And I see the blue Firebolt on the Centaur, the trade with the Priest there, and I'm already feeling pretty good about this, because I can tell he's not, you know, in the best shape here, especially after that pass as well here on turn 5 with 2 gold left over. Usually these decks can produce some kind of additional follow-up after something like that, but, you know, seeing that not out of Jump here is very good here. Now I throw out the Bear and another Lumberjack here to just continue the beatdown pressure. He does probably have to throw a Dragon's Fire out here now to kind of clean things up, but of course it doesn't get rid of the Bear, so the Bear will still have an opportunity to chip in for some additional damage, and so I'm feeling pretty good. Not only that, do I also get the 2 draws off a Lumberjack here off the Dragon's Fire, which of course does come down. Again, I told you he had to do it. And so we do have a Bear with a Blessing of the Trent, Priest, and Spiny follow-up. And I do end up taking that, I believe, the Spiny Blessing Priest route, because I figured, let's keep the beatdown going. I can really just put the hurt on this deck before it, you know, gets to do pretty much anything. And yeah, we'll throw down the Priest here. We get the Spiny going. We got the Big Bear at 5/6. The Spiny going to chip in as well while it can. And yeah, it's not looking good for Jump for sure. There's just a whole lot of stuff that he has to deal with, and not a lot of extra resources on board to help him. Does have the Flamestorm for the Priest, which does get removed, but of course Bear and Spiny are still kicking in the back there, still doing their thing. He does end up Witch Bolting the Bear, which is unfortunate here, but hey, I like to take some more draw for sure. He does pull out the books as well to get rid of the Spiny, though, which is quite unfortunate. So, unfortunately, that Spiny does not live to continue its onslaught here. And I figured, alright, he's going to start to reestablish himself a little bit. Let's go ahead and give him some breathing room in a way. We're going to set up Bear, we're going to set up Wolf here, and just let him be for now. See if he can find a way out of this here. And yeah, he certainly found something. He ends up throwing out the big Craxus on me, which I wasn't too happy about. Although, we do have some options here, moving into turn 8 to remove this threat here, and I think we're going to end up taking them. We're going to get the Spiny out off of the Bear, we're going to pop down the Armory, we're going to connect the Wolf into the Craxus, give him 2 cards, but also buffing up our beast here, namely the Bear and the Spiny, which we are going to use here. Bear to trade into the Craxus without giving him further draw, and Spine to come in and start chipping in the back there with the little extra help of the Beast of Rage. I kind of really want to put him down on sort of like, you know, the last bit of damage here that he can take. If I'm pulling something like an Arbiters, that would end the game. I have Wizard in hand as well, Wizard and Lore Master. So these guys can come in and do some efficient damage here, but he ends up throwing out the Arbiter in a bit of a weird spot. I'm not sure if this was, well, I guess it might have been intentional just to kind of, again, control the board a little bit here. He does have to decide whether or not he connects to the Bear or the Spiny. Ends up going into the Spiny with the Arbiter, and then follows up with the books as well into the Spiny. Just worried about that Rampage. I understand it's not something that you want to deal with, but hey, we're gonna be pretty happy about that. Bear moves into face for 6 damage. Lore Master and Blacksmith a little more aggressive than how you would normally see them, just to kind of push in to end the game here, coming off of an Arbiter and nearly having all that Arbiter negated, and still threatening lethal on the following turn. It's pretty rough for Jump here, and again, he can do some things, but nothing short of like a blue fire, dragon's fire combination will save him here. He does have the blue fire, which takes out our armory, and I was thinking, okay, if the dragon fire follows up, it's going to be rough here. But thankfully, we do see the Andrew, which trades with the bear, doesn't leave Andrew on board here. And again, I'm feeling pretty good about this. We do have a Lore Master draw in the following turn. End up getting Fear, which is unfortunate because we're not going to be able to do that extra bit of damage with the Tarius. Ends up blocking his face as well, so again, pretty rough for sure. But we end up picking a second Lore Master up from the deck. We are going to end up playing that, I think, followed by the... do we hand dump here? I don't remember if we hand dump here or not. I think we go Wizard... And then, okay, yeah, we do hand dump with the Lore Master. I remember getting 2 Lore Masters out, I think, so that's certainly what we're going to see. Oh, or not. Oh, that's why. I was never for a Dragon's Fire. Because the Dragon's Fire would pretty much clean up the majority of my board, so I was thinking, I don't want to give him more Dragon's Fire fuel if he has another one here. Ends up doing another Andrew, though, so that Lumberjack trade gives that Andrew a bit more power. Which is unfortunate here, but I do have my range wall in a way protecting me, so I'm not too bent out of shape about that. I know he can't get too close to me or else my range units are going to start chipping away at the Andrew. And I'm really looking for just like companions or arbiter at this point to end the game here. There's not a whole lot that he can do, I think, to really win the game. I think for the follow-up here, just to reinforce the range wall, I end up going for the Lore Master Books Priest. Again, just to continue that cycle power of the deck here, to just look for a card to end the game. And of course, giving them all that +1 health boost off of the Priest here to protect them again from something like Dragon's Fire, which would, of course, be pretty devastating at this point in the matchup here. Because not only do I lose, you know, my blacksmith or my books, but also the Lore Masters, which are, of course, my draw source right now. The ones that are just digging through the deck to find my answers to just close out this game. And meanwhile, though, Jump, again, has to kind of worry here. He did have the Dragon's Fire, so thankfully I did have the read on playing the Priest here. We were able to kind of put everything up above that threshold just so they could survive. And if he did want to commit a Flame Storm, that would be pretty much the entirety of his turn. But I don't think he actually followed up with the Flame Storm. He ends up playing out the Vicious Sunflower, excuse me. And then, of course, trading off with the Blacks, which unfortunately I did kind of leave up at the top there. It wasn't smart of me to just kind of leave my global in open sight of the Darkbender, but I wasn't thinking about the Smith. I was just more focused on my Lore Masters. So I was a little bummed out about that. But we are approaching sudden death now, or at least very close to. And thankfully, we do get a big amount of resources here, including a Blessing of the Trent, a Mana Core, and a Windfall Griffin, which I think... I know the Windfall Griffin, I think, gets played here. I think followed up with the Manticore, if I remember correctly here, just to kind of use that extra little wall to protect my my units from here. I do believe, yep, we go with the Manticore. Again, this is just a way I have to commit more resources to getting rid of my Windfall Griffin. He could easily pop the Darkbender into the Manticore and then follow up with the Andrew, but that still kind of doesn't really leave him answers to the range units and opens him, his Andrew up to getting eliminated by said range units here. So he ends up Darkbendering the Manticore, and then of course, yep, connecting with the Andrew because he has to. He has to get in damage or else he's going to lose the game. And I believe he follows up with another. Okay, yeah, it's another Craxus. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, I need to pick up something here. I've got double Lore Master draw incoming. I've got you know, the double draw from Sudden Death, and thankfully we do pull out 2 companions there, the Centaur and the Spiny, with the Bestial Rage and Blessing already in hand. It works out way too well here, and I've just decided, I'll throw the Blessing out, throw the Respect to Jump, and that is Jump down and out of the semifinals, and giving us our shot into the finals. Going up against, I believe, Death's Advocate came in for the rematch here, so I'm pretty excited to get our grudge match underway here. So let's go ahead and take you to that right now. Alright, folks, and here it is. We are in the finals of this little underground event, and it is going to be myself taking on a Death's Advocate. And again, another best of 3 round, if the recorder would cooperate with me. We are going to go underway here, and not really the best of hands to open up here. At this point, noticing the colors of DA, I kind of picked up on, okay, he's going to run back that same rat good stuff build again, so need to find a way to deal with those hovels if they come out early. Unfortunately, we don't really grab that in the early portions here, so I'm hoping, okay, again, just hope that he doesn't have something like a, early rush hovel double buff thing to get things going here. He does have a lumberjack, which is okay. We do end up pulling the dark bender, which is not going to help us here. So lumberjack going to end up getting his free shot onto the face, which, I mean, it's fine. It's 1 point of damage. It's not the end of the world here. We're going to have to take that because we don't have any plays to make. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, probably going to have to put in the blacksmith here to defend just a little bit here. And then the second one comes out as well. It's annoying, but we can deal with it. Blacksmith comes out here. It does connect over to the lumberjack here. I'm debating on whether or not he might throw blacksmith of his own out, trade with our blacksmith. Let's see what happens. Because we are at turn 3. It would be ideal for him to pop smith now just to get it going. Ends up not having it, though, connecting lumberjack to face yet again. Following up with the flying books as well for some additional draw power. And I'm thinking, okay, that's not too bad. At this point, we do have enough resources to bring out the Dragon Knight, so let's go ahead and do that. Do push out the Drake in front here, using the Dragon Knight to connect with the Lumberjack, since it is the weaker of the two. We want to throw out more health to block for the incoming flying books. And moving back to his turn for turn 4, we're in a pretty good position here. We recovered from the early game stumble that we took in the first 2 turns, for sure. But now, of course, moving into the rest of the matchup here, what else does DA have for us here? Pulling off 2 cards from the flying books draw. Ends up using the coin for his turn to establish yet another flying books, as well as, again, that hovel. And I'm now sort of hyper fixated on trying to get rid of the hovel at this point, because I knew off of last time letting the hovel stick was not good for me, but thankfully this time I think I can deal with it with some Darkbender stuff. Now, you'll see in a minute here, DA actually ends up pushing the books back to one in front here, and that's a smart idea from him to protect his castle a bit better, because of course if he kept the books where it was, I'd be able to use the Dragon Knight to swoop in and kill off the books and allow Faithful Drake to come in and get 3 on 2 face. But we don't really want to do that at this point. Again, we sort of know from the last time we faced off against this deck that the Rat Hovel is sort of a big issue for us. We don't want to let that thing start swarming over, at any point here. So we end up pushing in with the Faithful Drake here to push some more aggro on him. Have him fixate a little bit on the Faithful Drake, but also push in Dragon Knight and Darkbender up at the top there to let him know that we want that hovel dead, and that he needs to commit some kind of resource to defending that hovel. I believe he ends up trading... what does he do here? I think he actually ends up trading books because of this, and then using the rat to block here. He does play the armory for turn, which actually does keep his books alive. I forgot about that. He does have that in store. Isn't great, but it is what it is here. And I believe he decides on whether or not he wants to make the trade with the Faithful Drake here by using the books here and then using the rat to defend, which I think is the play he goes for, which makes the most sense. You want to block her out for that hovel. You want to end up defending that hovel, since you know it's going to start generating you units here. But I really want to get rid of it. I really want to pop it, and that's what our goal is. Again, taking the time to think, much like the man that DA is. He likes to think. But this is what you expect out of the Season 2 champion, for sure. And, yeah, connects the books with the Faithful Drake here. Uses the rat to block. Smartly not putting it 2 up, so that way it forces my Darkbender to move up if I want to engage with the rat here. But I end up, I think, going for a bit of a different maneuver. I end up, I think, pushing the Dragon Knight down to intercept his books, then using the Darkbender to trade with the rat or kill off the rat to put it in a better spot to maybe kill off the hovel in the next turn, or at least set something up to maybe kill the hovel in the next turn. And I certainly debated on whether or not I want to take it, but I figured if I put the Darkbender that far up this early, it's a huge loss of a Darkbender just for a hovel. I don't feel like it's really worth it right now, so I end up using the Darkbender to kill off the rat. And then follow up, I believe, with a second Darkbender and Faithful Drake combination here. I forgot. Yeah, I used the Drake to also, kind of start pushing into armory a little bit, too. I'm like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going to go after the armory, too. Although, I wasn't really too concerned about the armory. I had temples, as you can see in the hand here, to kind of match that. So if it did come down to it, I wasn't hugely bummed out. Ends up using the reinforced on the hovel, which he did in the first game as well, if you remember, in the first round. So I thought that was pretty nice, but Darkbender, of course, more than strong enough to remove it without any sort of additional help at this point in time. And I think he was using that primarily for cycle as well, because, I mean, his hand must not have been good here. As you're seeing in the game, his hand hasn't been the best. His options have been pretty on the standard average side. Nothing really too impactful coming out throughout the game. So at this point, I'm getting into my head that maybe he's not having the best of hands, and this is going to maybe open up an opportunity for me to kind of swing in hard and fast, and maybe he doesn't have enough time or resources to respond to that if I end up pushing. He ends up throwing another armory, which, I do want to point out, if I were to push in the Darkbender to remove the hovel, the book would have gotten strong enough to remove the Darkbender. So it's good on us that we didn't decide to push in with the Darkbender, or else we would have ended up losing the Darkbender. He ends up throwing another rat to trade here, though, with the Darkbender. I'm not sure why that was, but I do get a pretty significant pull in the form of Mystic Journey here, so this is going to be pretty good. We end up using the Temple of 5 Gods here to get some chain damage going, and as you can see, we're going to end up pushing the Dragon Knight a little bit forward as well here to start generating some Mystic Journey value, so we can put another Drake in on his face. And with that Drake, we're actually able to remove the hovel he's got set up in the back there, and nearly deal lethal damage to the armory. Pretty much, if he attacks with anything else that isn't from the back of Faithful Drake, he'll lose that armory. So not in the best spot for sure. And of course, we are going to move our Darkbender and second Faithful Drake forward as well, just to keep the pressure going onto him. Because at this point, again, he's running into the issue where he has some globals, yes, but doesn't have the generators of hovel, or doesn't have much units on the board to really make use of these globals without them having to make maybe some awkward trades or positioning choice there. He does have the execution, which will pop on the Darkbender, which I'm feeling pretty good about. But again, that's pretty much all he can do. As you see, he used pretty much all of his gold to do that. And we're feeling pretty good. Because at this point now, we can pretty much start to clean up a lot of what he has on the board here. Including these armories, which you could see. Now we can use the opportunity here to pop said globals off the board here using the Dragon Knight and the Faithful. Removes the books for free on our end, and we end up pushing, I believe, the Green Drake as well as another Faithful Drake. Again, just to really emphasize the point of how I'm going to start pushing in Drakes here to really end the game. We don't end up pushing the Faithful Drake in all the way, because at this point I maybe feared Mordok could potentially come out and use the Faithful Drake, the newer one, as a launching point. So ended up pushing that one off to the side just a little bit. But again, I think we have more than enough of a position to end the game here. Or at least push for some damage across the board, because we do have a second temple in hand as well. And I think DAC said as well, he does go for the Mordok. So again, correctly guessing the read off of the Mordok. Ends up getting the Horseman, which gets bopped by the Chain Lightning because of the priority of how the effects trigger in that instance. And yeah, he's left with a 5-7 or a 5-5, a 7-7, and a 3-4, all with some additional globals. And at that point, DA just throws in the towel. He says, I can't deal with it. Let's go ahead and go to game 2 and see what happens. So that's what we're going to do. Folks, game number 2, we are one game away from winning out this little event here. Can we do it in that next match? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, folks, and match number, what are we on? Well, 2 of the finals. We are going, of course, back to the Yellow Zoo. I figured it worked out pretty well in our last matchup, so let's go ahead and try to bring it into the next game here, which we get a fantastic opening curve here. The Lumberjack into the Ramrus can do some funny stuff, and then the Manicore to follow up and protect the Ramrus in that turn 3 moment. It's pretty good here, although unfortunately DA does draw Lumberjack, which kind of throws a wrench in the whole plan, because now I have to use the Lumberjack to block, which will end up trading with the Lumberjack on the other side. But I figured it's not too bad. We'll pick up a Priest off of that, which we'll just replace in the equation here and delay it by a turn or so. Delay the whole process of, Priest and the Ramrus and the Manicore kind of thing. So we'll end up throwing our Priest there after DA goes for the reinforced play on his end to, again, cycle a little bit here. And he ends up throwing the Cleric out, which I think is fantastic value for us, because now we can use the Ramrus to snipe off the Cleric here. We get that nice little connection there, that nice little trade, while also not giving him additional heals, and also pushing this Ramrus now into his face here. We're off to a very, very strong start in this next game for sure. And DA in response throws out another cleric, says you probably can't remove the second one, so let's go ahead and put that in your face, which he kind of was right. I couldn't really deal with it, so I believe I end up going for... I don't remember if I go for the armory or for the books here. I think I go for, yeah, okay, the books, and then following up with the coin into priest there to get everything just a little bit stronger. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, we'll probably have to let him do a little bit of stuff with this cleric here, but we'll probably armory next turn, so that way the books can maybe trade into it or something like that. It's going to be fine. No big deal. And then, yeah, we'll throw it back to him for turn 5 now. We'll see what he's got in store for us. At this point, maybe had the idea that he was going for more of a knight package. I'm not sure if we've seen this deck out of him before. This might be one of the CC decks, the Casting Conflicts decks that he might have used, but I can't remember really. The Fat Bard, though, going to throw a wrench into my plans for sure about the armory and the books. Needed something like maybe, well, nah. I was thinking maybe Bestial Rage, but then again, not enough to really deal that much damage here. We do draw the Smith and the Wizard, which I think are fine pickups, but certainly not what we needed in this moment here. This Cleric does get to run around the board a bit longer after all. We don't really have the necessary resources to remove it, so I have to think, alright, what do I want to do here? Do I want to get aggressive and maybe pop his Bard with the Centaur? Do I want to get the Armory established here to get going? I figured, you know what, let's go ahead and bop the Bard just so that way we can maintain some global supremacy over him when we get out our Blacksmith and our Armory in the later turns here. And also put the Cleric down to size a little bit here so that way we can, of course, establish our own Armory and kill off the Cleric. DA does follow up, though, with the Blacksmith, which is going to be, okay, dual Blacksmith, mind you, actually, which is enough to kill off our Flying Book, so unfortunately that plan went out the window. We do end up losing the Centaur as well to the Cleric, but that's about it for the follow-up here. We do thankfully have the Smith. Unfortunately, though, for him, I do draw that Windfall Griffin for the turn, and it's way more appealing to me, unfortunately, than the Smith Wizard play. Because now I can get this big Griffin out here just to do some damage. And noticing how he's on some iffy resources, I figure let's go ahead and take advantage of this while we can before things like cracks just start showing up here. And yeah, he ends up playing the Armory for turn here. He has to block with the Blacksmith if he doesn't have any other unit to defend. And that's what he ends up going for here, as well as Blue Fire bolting the Griffin, which I'm not sure the Griffin bolt was the smartest of choices. I mean, I guess probably was setting him up for something like a Dragon's Fire or Flamestorm in the following turns. But the fact that I can now successfully pop a Mana Core and an Armory down here means that it's going to get a whole lot worse for him. I think I do misplay this slightly and put in the Priest before the trade happens, so that way the Griffin isn't as strong as it could have been. But I'm still feeling pretty great about this anyway, because of course Mana Core is a pain to get rid of here. And actually ends up getting DA to commit 2 Blue Fire bolts to this board here, 1 to the Griffin, 1 to the Armory, which does keep the Priest alive, so that Priest is going to get a bit more damage in. And then I think I follow up the Mordok here, seeing as how now all Blue Fires are out of the deck here. And at this point, man, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I don't know how he can recover from this, and I think this event is ours for sure, because realistically, Dragon's Fire Flamestorm is the exact 2-card combination that needs to come out from him, and so far we haven't seen that today from anyone. So was a little nervous that maybe would have ran into it, but you know, the time he's taken to think about this decision, I could already pretty much tell that he doesn't really have it. If you know, if it's taken him this long to kind of, you know, commit to any sort of card or play, then I think we certainly have this one for sure. And I think he's going over in his head here how he can minimize the incoming damage, what exactly he needs to do to kind of clean up the board a little bit here, or try to stabilize to recover. But again, at this point, not a whole lot I think he can have left in the tank here. He pops out an Arbiter, which is surprising. I mean, it does give him a bit more health to survive, but ends up putting the Arbiter into the Priest, which of course kills off the Mana Core, which I don't think is how he wanted it to go, but it has to, unfortunately, take it because of the way the circumstances played out. And we end up going for the Bear Mordok follow-up here with the Bestial Rage. We're going to be able to pop into the castle and the armory. Granted, as long as my Mordok doesn't spawn something that kills off the armory. which it didn't, but we are unfortunately one short from connecting and killing the castle there, thanks to the reinforce they did at the beginning of the game here. Reinforce or priest or something that he played throughout the game. It does keep him alive just for a brief moment, but with how much is on the board and how little resources he has in hand, at this point he kind of sees the writing on the wall and says, listen man, I think you've got this game for sure. He ends up throwing out the Craxus, which is going to trade into the priest, or at least kill off the priest to get some cards, but as you know, nothing else he really can do here, so we'll just clean up across the board, and that will give us the win, concluding the event and giving us the winner circle. So we won the event. We won a tournament. I know it wasn't a big one. It was only like 5 people in this small event, but it still felt pretty good to come out of it and say that you were able to kind of succeed over everyone else just by claiming that top spot in the finals. So I was pretty happy for sure, even though, again, didn't really get any sort of big prizing or big highlights or anything. But hey, I'm just happy to be in the event and happy to win it for sure. So, yeah, that will, of course, do it for the matches, folks. But before we go, I do want to go ahead and say some things before we close out this video. So yeah, that was the underground event, as what I'm calling it here. I mean, Dread Phoenix never really gave it a proper name, so I decided to just call it that and, you know, give a little bit more life to this small event that happened here. I mean, props to everyone who competed and played here. It was an incredibly fun night to just, you know, sit back with you guys and throw some cards back and forth for sure. And even though, again, there was no big prize money, I still think that just having that experience and getting some games in without having to worry about the rank ladder is certainly a fun opportunity here. So, again, big thanks to Dread for creating this little event here on short notice as well, getting it together. And big props to everyone who competed in the event. But with that being said, folks, that is going to do it for me for now. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any thoughts on how the matches went, or if you want to maybe see more tournament POVs like this in the future, let me know. As well as being sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, sharing it with your friends, and of course subscribing if you're new or haven't done so already to the channel. Really helps us out and really supports us here as we climb ever so closer to that 1K milestone. And yeah, that's going to be it for me for now. So, until next time, guys, stay gaming.